We are back in the sunshine. Danielle here. It's been a while since I've filmed anything just because I've been having a lot of anxiety, but today I've been wanting to talk about this because I always wondered if anyone else went through this. And I haven't really met anyone who's been through this. Um, but maybe borderline of just having a kind of a rough childhood, having very strong feelings as a child. But when I was growing up, I remember being very angry. I was mad at the world. I was genuinely always pissed off, always in a bad mood, always unsatisfied. And I think I need a psychologist to explain why that's going on, but I just wanted to talk about what I'd been through. Oh, that drawer is bothering me. Oh, no cuts. Because I don't know, it's just more raw like that. But um, the earliest that I can remember, and I try to get to the bottom of it, and it's you really can't. I don't know why. Children should not be feeling so angry and be overthinking shit but yeah, as a kid though, or from what I've been told, I was told that, oh, you always knew what you wanted growing, like you cried a lot because you knew what you wanted, and yeah, you were never just satisfied. You're too smart for your own good. I think that was the overthinking part, but um yeah, as a kid, I was very spoiled, and I think they allowed me to be spoiled because, I grew up with my grandparents, and I think they spoiled me because they felt bad that, my parents weren't around. Um, but, you know, yeah, and then spoiled kids just tend to be bad. In school, I was quiet. Around other people, I was quiet. At home, I was just a different story. I don't know. The From what I'm remembering, I think I was there 6 or 7. I started absolutely just not wanting to hear anything from my grandma. I remember 6 years old specifically realizing, oh, like my life's a little different. People have their parents around. And at the time, there was a lot going on with my dad. My dad was living with me. I always lived with my dad, but he wasn't necessarily there. He lived there, but and then as I grow up, I find out because I remember my dad's last two phone numbers because we had the home phone, the landline at the time, and it was easier instead of there was a contacts, like you can look through your contacts, but it was so much faster for me to just dial his numbers because I was constantly calling him, asking him when he was coming home every day. So like I still remember those phone numbers because I was just always wondering, where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Because he would go to work, and then I knew what time he'd get off of work, and I'm waiting for him. I'm waiting for him, and obviously I've always had, or I have that. I'm not a fucking psychologist, but I have always had these feelings of fear of abandonment, and then, you know, it's complicated. There's a lot in my life that's just, it's complicated. But, I was afraid of being left, like, oh, he's gone. But he was definitely just up to no good somewhere else. I didn't know this at the time. My dad was the biggest liar. Um, and just would lie about where he was all the time. I'll be home in 20 minutes, and no. Oh, I'm at the store. You're not at the store. And I mean, I was believing it at the time, and it was kind of fine at the time. The older I got, the more, I was like fed up with it. Um, 6, 7 years old, I started acting out at home. I didn't want to listen to my grandma. I didn't want to do what she told me at all. I would argue with her. I would fight with her. She'd fight back. But there was a time in my life, every single day, I was fighting with my grandma. Every single day. And I remember it being so stressful. Like, and it's hard to look back on now. I mean, I'll kind of get to that because I want people to also understand, like, maybe this is why this happened to us, if you also experience this. But I was just really horrible. 7 years old, arguing with my grandma, and it was just every day. And I remember Mother's Day was horrible, not a holiday that I looked forward to because she'd always make us feel bad, me and my dad. And I I can't even get into. We would have screaming matches, and right now I think, like, why was my grandma fighting with a 7 year old? But I think it was also just like not giving up, but just like, oh, like I can't discipline her. I can't, like, I'm done disciplining. I don't know, like, and if you know me now or you know my grandma now, you can kind of see my grandma's not. sh I don't know, stuff she does. I'll say stuff she does doesn't make sense. And she doesn't stand up for herself a lot. And, like, instead of standing up for herself, I think people go about things different ways. And instead of standing up for herself, she just likes to argue back, but only with me and my dad. And I'm also looking back on the fact that the way my dad is now, um, my dad, I've known him for a very long time, obviously. And he has not changed his ways, his attitude, his behaviors, his yeah, he's the same. As a kid, obviously I didn't see that, and I remember him as a different person, someone that I looked up to, someone that was kind of fun and whatever, despite not being there. But it's like when he was there, it was more of the idea of having a dad that was cool, because I knew my sister didn't have a dad, and my dad was being a dad to my sister and me. So, he was cool and, like, but, he never really was the one to feed us, shelter us, and, actually be there all the time. It was just kind of a special guest appearance from him. And, but yeah, now that I'm seeing, oh my gosh, my dad has not changed all these, like, I'll say past 10 years. So I'm thinking back, what about 20 years ago? And I'm confident that my dad is the same way he was 20 years ago. And seeing the way my dad talks to my grandma, the way he reacts to what stuff my grandma says, the way they fight, I'm like, I might have been copying my dad. I might have been treating my grandma the way my dad was treating her. Because it's like, how am I gonna just be so angry and so pissed off? I would be so pissed off at everything that came out of her mouth. And that's how my dad is at the moment. So I'm older, I'm putting two and two together, and I'm like, I'm just learning all this horrible stuff and how to be horrible from this man. Even now, or more recently in my adulthood, after turning 18, or even like when I was in high school and stuff, and the way I would get angry was very similar to how he would get angry. And so, yeah, he didn't teach me a lot, but yeah, he taught me how to be so damn angry and reactive and just horrible. And yeah, I remember the worst things would come out of my mouth. I'd be breaking shit, swinging, like, very irrationally angry, very inappropriate. And it's just something I was reflecting on. It started very young. My anger started very young, unfortunately. Yeah. Damn, this video is not funny, but this is just one that I want I wonder if people have experienced this because of just being exposed to so much anger. Oh my god. And my grandma had this weird way of showing her anger too. And like I and as I said, I've always been afraid of abandonment to this day because I've just felt it my whole life. And even like I said, my dad hasn't changed. He still gives those feelings of, or I still get that fear of what's going to happen because he has not changed for the better. And it scares me. And yeah, I had a different point in my phones. People are sending me TikToks and Instagram reels. Oh my gosh, I should cut that out. I don't care. Yeah, I was exposed to anger at such a young age, and it's lived through me. And on top of everything else, I feel like I say that all the time. On top of everything else, that should be my catchphrase. There was just a lot of anger in my household growing up, and not a lot of people defending themselves either, which is sad because I hate seeing my dad talk to my grandma the way he does. It's horrible. And then if I step in, it's a problem. It's a mess. There's so much. If you know, you know. My grandparents defend my dad all the time, no matter how bad he gets, no matter how loud he gets, no matter how ugly he acts. And yeah, that's not gonna, I don't know. I don't see it changing anytime soon. And yeah, I've been more angry throughout the years than happy, more angry, bad memories than happy memories. I've had a lot of happiness in life, but it's been a little forgotten, blocked out, because the happiness was just kind of in between all the bad. So I block out whole parts of my life, and unfortunately, that gets rid of every single memory, good or bad. And yeah, I wish I wasn't such an angry kid. I know people grow up through adversity and they turn out to be like the most positive people. I remember as a kid too, I was like I would see that and like I would hear about similar stories to mine, but not every single I don't think the people who've grown up as harsh, because yes, I had, the abandonment. I have, the guilt of being the sibling of disabled siblings. I have, the I mean, no, I was gonna include, the behaviors of my grandparents, but I think if my grandparents were different, things would be different. And that's where I'm getting at with the kids I grew up with who didn't have their parents and were raised by their grandparents. I think their grandparents were not like mine. And ultimately, I blame everything on my dad, but the way that my grandparents went about things, like I don't, and not to blame her, and my grandparents did step up, put the roof over our heads, fed us, clothed us, bought us whatever we needed, were supportive of us in school, but it all comes down to enabling that negative behavior from my father. And I will admit at times they enabled me as well. But I was just able to look at my dad and be like, I don't want to be like that. I didn't grow up around my mom, but when I would see her and look at her, I'd be like, I don't want to be like that. I somehow just found my way. It was a very lonely journey, but I just looked at my surroundings and knew, oh, I don't want to be like that. And I know in other cases, people look at their surroundings like, I do want to be like that. And there was a time where I would see my dad being angry. I would see my dad acting tough, and I would feel like, oh, I want to be like that too, or I want to, yeah, like I don't want anyone to fuck with me, and Like I gotta act like that too, but then like I realized like, oh, that's gotten him nowhere. So I just trying to figure out how to grow out of those. And seeing what he was doing, I knew it was wrong too. I knew it was wrong. In the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, that's really wrong. But at the forefront, when I'm trying to display my, whatever demeanor I'm trying to display, I subconsciously just wanted to act like crazy basically. I wanted it just comes out. I think more like they're both in the back of my head of like, oh, do the right thing, do the bad thing, and the bad thing just wants to over. I mean, I've heard this before. It's easier to be bad than it is to be good. I guess it's easier to just give in to your like not instincts, but your it was my instinct at one point, but I guess it's easier to give in to what's the word? Your impulses. Negative impulses, especially someone like me and I've seen more bad than good, been around more bad than good. And so that's why it's easier for me to kind of take the wrong way, take the road less traveled by, most traveled by. Do people get angry easier? Do most people get angry easier than not? And I've worked really hard to try and be calm and not like that anymore. I slip, but ultimately that's not the person that I want to be. I don't want to be an angry person. I don't want to get mad and I am understanding when I'm watching from afar, but um I I mess up sometimes and it sucks cuz yeah, I'm tired of being around negativity. I want to change, the dynamic of the family, which is not going to happen, but I just want to change the dynamic of who I am. I used to be such a negative kid. I was such a negative kid. Um Negative preteen, negative teenager, and I want to just turn that around. That's why I moved out. I just being around my dad every single day was not helping. It just for some reason the behaviors kept rubbing off. I feel like such a weak person for acting like him subconsciously when and I hate the way he acts. I'm not going to say I hate him, but I hate the way he acts. And yet I'm acting like it. I don't know where that comes from. Obviously, probably has something to do with the fact that I want my parents around. That's just I was so angry as a kid because I'm like I want parents. I want a normal family. I want everything to be okay. And so that's what I was angry about as a kid. Now as time goes by, you realize you're not gonna get what you want. But I think I wanted some sort of connection to him, and I long for a connection with my family. So I tend to act like them. It's just not always a good thing. Yeah, I wanted this to be a shorter little tidbit, more of hoping people can relate to this. Um, it's I don't know. This wasn't supposed to be a funny space, okay? Because people are like, "Oh, the funny girl's talking. Oh, little Joker's talking." No, well, I just wanted to talk about relatable stuff and um hopefully people can I don't know, but I've always longed for someone with a very similar life to me, like just to speak with, just because like yes, some aspects, okay, you got that, yeah, me too. What about these like four other things? And then they don't have everything. It's not like I just really want to find people to relate to. That's it. Um, Not much else to say. I gotta go to work, sip my tea. Um, yeah, more to come. This has been on my mind. Yeah, I haven't filmed in a bit just because of the anxiety. But um hopefully more to come. Not hopefully, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. Because this is just like my little diary. But yeah, that's it.